My name is Janet Hallwell. I'll tell you a little bit about me. I've been involved in clinical research for over 30 years. I started out as a coordinator working in academic medical centers, and then transitioned to industry and held a variety of positions, starting out as a monitor. Then I was a study manager, site selection specialist, ended up in a quality oversight role, and always did some sort of teaching. And for the last 3 years, I've done some independent consulting, and that's what I do now, and basically concentrating on the areas that I like best, which are quality oversight and training. So we're going to first take a look at the general concept and then move to specific examples of the usual challenges. See what some of these confusions might be, in terms of from the site's perspective, as well as what expenses are reimbursable. So let's take a look here. This is, of course, I just told you all this, but this is my bio, so it is in your slide deck if you want any more detail. Now, background in terms of trial delays. There is a reference in terms of a Center Watch survey that was done, and budgeting and contracting always remains one of the top causes of study delays. We know like a lot of the regulatory, the contract and IRB approvals are usually the things that are the stumbling block. And when it comes to the contract and the budgeting, it's usually that negotiation going back and forth, whether it be the overhead that's not a negotiable item for some institutions and sponsors wanting not to pay quite as much down to other, certainly, items. And we will see this. We have a number of examples to look at. So in this particular Center Watch survey, 950 participating investigative sites, only 49% of the respondents pegged contract and budget negotiation and approval as the key factor in the study delay, more than any other activity. And it did edge out that patient recruitment. We always say, the recruitment is slow, we need to get that ramped up. But really, 49%, that's a pretty high number in terms of just this budgeting. And so we want to get a budget in place that's realistic. And I think if both industry and sites are realistic with what they're asking for and know how to create that budget, it does make things move a little bit more smoothly. And there is a handout, actually, that you've been provided in terms of where this actually came from. It's called Budget Woes, Stall, Clinical Trials, and Stymie Sites. So you do have that as one of your handouts. All right, so let's look a little bit at the background here. These are just the figures here in terms of Phase 1, 2, and 3. Startup and enrollment challenges contribute heavily, 42% longer than expected in Phase 1 and 31. As it gets to the more advanced phases, we do see a little bit less in terms of the startup and enrollment challenges, but nonetheless, still at least a third across the board. So each day, as we all know, each day a clinical trial extends over schedule. Drug developers lose as much as $600,000. It's actually quite a bit higher now. I think these numbers were culled from a survey that were done a few years ago, but it is much higher than that now. And in foregone sales and in small niche or products, as much as $8 million for blockbuster drugs. So it does have that range of $600,000, say, to $8 million, which is quite a large number. So you really don't want to delay things any more by just, something simple in terms of having a real good template and good handle on how to really budget these things and be fair. And we all know how difficult it is once you have a budget and to go back and try to get more. Sites come back and they try to ask for more because they didn't think of something initially, and you may not have that ability to go ahead and give them more. So it behooves you to really think about what the sites need to. If the sites are not putting certain things into their budget, don't say, oh, yippee, they're going to do it for, a lot less than we anticipated. Think about these things because in the long run, the sponsors kind of lose too. Sites lose, but the sponsors lose. If the site didn't budget for something that was really critical and important to their functioning, are you going to get your data on time? Are you going to get all your patients if they don't really have the funding they need to really keep that infrastructure going? So we'll get to all of that individually through examples as well. But let's take a look at our general objectives today. You'll hear us say FMV, or fair market value. So we're going to discuss what those elements are. We're going to review the key questions and items to address prior to developing the budget. And we're also going to address techniques and tools for use in budget development at the sponsor as well as the site level.